3 years after faking my own death, I got busted by my ex-wife in a toy store. She stalked toward me on 10-centimeter, red-soled heels, her scarlet nails digging into my throat. "Ethan," she hissed, "not only are you not dead, you knocked someone else up?" The little boy at my side was holding a new toy, shouting, "Dad!" This whole charade, this lie I'd built to save face, had just become the stage for my own public execution. She'd acquire my company, lock me in a gilded cage, and whisper in my ear, "Since you love playing dad so much, why don't we have a real one?" The 3 o'clock sun sliced through the mall's atrium, scattering diamond-shaped patches of light on the floor. I juggled 3 overstuffed shopping bags, a film of sweat slick on the back of my neck. Leo, my younger brother, was a tornado unleashed, weaving through the crowd with a new transformer held high, the collar of his school uniform twisted over his shoulder. "Ethan, I need that limited edition Gundam," he suddenly shrieked, freezing in front of the toy store window. His chubby finger jabbed at the glass. "I'm the only one in my class who doesn't have it." I rubbed my aching elbow. This was the 5th must-have toy of the day. After my stage death 3 years ago, I'd used the identity Sean Murphy to transfer ownership of our parents' old house to Leo, who had just started elementary school. The 40-mile drive to see him every week was the only bright spot in my otherwise pointless existence. "I just bought you that massive Lego castle last month," I said, dropping the bags with a thud and trying to sound like the responsible older brother. "Leo, you've blown way past your allowance." Leo's lip immediately began to quiver, his eyelashes glistening with strategic tears. It was a move he'd perfected since he was 5, and it always worked. But Jason said only kids whose families are broke can't afford this one. "He's full of crap." I snapped, my blood heating up. I bent down and pinched his soft cheek, a wicked thought popping into my head. "Call me Dad and I'll buy it. Otherwise, forget it." Our parents were gone. I was his brother, his guardian, practically his father. A little joke at the expense of our messed-up family tree wasn't out of line, was it? Leo, bless his shameless heart, didn't hesitate. "Dad," he chirped, then immediately held out his hands for the Gundam. "You're unbelievable," I laughed, ruffling his hair before turning to the clerk. "Excuse me, could you pass me that toy, please?" The instant my fingers were about to close around the box, a familiar, cold fragrance drifted into my nose. It was like frozen red roses in a snowbank, a scent sharp and sweet that had wrapped itself around my neck on countless nights. Blood rushed to my head, then froze solid. I turned, my neck stiff, and looked straight into a pair of ice-cold almond eyes. Isabella Rossi leaned against the doorframe of the toy store. A perfectly tailored black suit dress hugged her exquisite curves, the neckline dipping just enough to reveal the delicate line of her collarbone. Her 10-centimeter, red-soled stilettos stood out against the polished floor, the heels like daggers ready to be plunged into my heart. I met her gaze for half a second before the pressure became too much and I had to look away. Her expression was a storm of shock and pure, unadulterated rage. "Ethan," Isabella said, her red lips barely moving, her voice laced with ice. Her eyes flickered between me and Leo, finally settling on the boy's features, which were an undeniable echo of my own. "So, you're not dead after all." Leo, terrified by her intimidating presence, scrambled behind me, his small hands clutching my pant leg. My throat went dry. "Ms. Rossi, you have the wrong person," I managed, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "My name is Sean Murphy." "The wrong person?" She let out a short, sharp laugh and began walking toward me. With every step, the click of her heels on the floor was a hammer blow to my nerves. She stopped right in front of me, tilting her head up slightly, her scarlet nails aimed at my face. "Ethan Miller, I'd know you if you were nothing but ash." Her gaze dropped to the little boy. "And what's this? Calling you Dad? Is this the bastard child you had with some tramp?" "No, that's not. He's my brother," I explained frantically, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Isabella, listen to me. Don't say my name." She cut me off, her eyes turning savage. 3 years ago, you had an accidental death at sea. No body was ever found. I played the grieving widow for 6 months. Turns out it wasn't an accident. It was you and your whore running off together, wasn't it? Shoppers were starting to stare, pointing and whispering. My face burned with humiliation. I tried to pull her away to get out of the spotlight, but she yanked her hand back. "You've got a lot of nerve, Ethan," she said, stepping closer. Her cold, floral scent was so strong it felt like it was suffocating me. "You knew I hate divorce, so you faked your death to escape me? And now you dare to show your face with your bastard son in tow? Do you think the Rossi family is a joke?" "It's not what you think." I was sweating now, but her relentless accusations sparked my own anger. Flashes from 3 years ago flooded my mind. The way she'd smiled and whispered into her phone late at night, a tenderness in her voice I'd never heard directed at me. The platinum cufflink with a strange initial I found under the passenger seat of her car, the unfamiliar scent of cedarwood that sometimes clung to her clothes. "Since you already found someone new," I bit out, my voice trembling, "why are you still bothering with me?" Isabella froze. Then she burst into a peal of laughter, so sharp it was painful. She laughed until tears streamed down her pale cheeks and splattered on the gleaming floor. "Ethan, you've gotten so much better at turning things around on me." She would never admit it. I had no energy left to argue. "I need to finish shopping with my brother," I said, my voice suddenly detached as I fiddled with my fingers behind my back. "Ms. Rossi, if you'll excuse us." I made a move to leave. Isabella's hand shot out and clamped around my wrist, her grip so tight I thought the bone would shatter. "You know the deal, Ethan. In my world, marriage ends in widowhood, not divorce." Leo, terrified, let out a wail and started hitting her leg. "Don't you hurt my brother." Isabella's gaze fell to the boy's tear-streaked face. Hearing his words, some of the fury in her eyes seemed to recede. Seeing Leo's tantrum escalating, she released my wrist, smoothed down her dress, and regained her air of untouchable authority. "Ethan, your little vacation is over," she said coolly. "You know what I'm capable of." With that, she turned and walked away, her bodyguards falling in step behind her. The sound of her heels faded down the corridor until it was gone. I sagged against a shelf, my shirt soaked through with cold sweat. "Ethan, who was that pretty lady?" Leo asked, rubbing his red eyes. "She was really scary." I knelt, putting my hands on his shoulders, my own voice shaking. "Leo, you can't tell anyone about today, especially not Aunt Carol." He nodded, not quite understanding. Then his attention was already elsewhere. He held up another transformer. "So, can I get this one?" Fine, buy it," I said, rubbing my throbbing temples in no mood to argue. "Let's just go home." As we left the toy store, I couldn't help but look back over my shoulder, half expecting to see Isabella's silhouette materialize from the crowd. The sun was still bright, the mall was still bustling, but I knew my quiet life had just ended. My possessive, dangerously obsessive ex-wife knew I was alive. And worse, she thought I'd cheated on her. My meticulously planned escape had just spectacularly blown up in my face. The next week was a blur of paranoia. I was on edge at the office, constantly feeling like a pair of eyes were boring into my back. I blocked all unknown numbers on my phone, wore a mask and a baseball cap every time I left the house, and seriously considered disappearing all over again. I knew better than anyone what Isabella was capable of. As the sole heir to the Rossi family, she'd been forged in the crucible of high-stakes business, taking the reins of a billion-dollar empire while still in her 20s. During our 2-year marriage, she was a ruthless powerhouse in public and a languid, sensual kitten at home. But only I knew the terrifying depth of her obsession. Once, I helped a female colleague carry a box of files. She froze all my bank accounts. Another time, I stayed out drinking with my best friend until dawn, and she appeared before me moments later, having tracked me using a network of security cameras across the city. The worst was at a company retreat. A female colleague, as a dare, kissed me on the cheek. The very next afternoon, Isabella had her reassigned to a remote branch in Africa. Her love was a suffocating net. What made it worse was that her possessiveness never seemed to apply to herself. The memory of her with another man 3 years ago still sent a wave of acid through my heart. Life went on, and I started to think maybe I'd imagined the whole encounter. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, my department was called into an emergency meeting. Our director stood at the podium and announced that our company, Apex Innovations, had been fully acquired by Rossi Enterprises. The new boss was arriving today. A cold dread washed over me. When the conference room doors swung open, my worst fears were realized. Isabella stood there in a crisp white pantsuit, her long hair swept into an elegant chignon, revealing the slender, pale column of her neck. A phalanx of executives trailed her, their combined presence silencing the entire room. "I'm Isabella Rossi," she said, taking the seat at the head of the table. Her voice, amplified by the microphone, filled the space. Her gaze swept coolly over the crowd before landing, with pinpoint accuracy, right on me. "As of today, I am the CEO of Apex Innovations." A collective gasp went through my colleagues, followed by a flurry of whispers. I stared at the table, wishing a hole would open up and swallow me. After the meeting, I tried to slip out, but her executive assistant stopped me. "Mr. Murphy, Ms. Rossi would like to see you in her office." The CEO's office was a study in minimalist luxury, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a forest of skyscrapers. Isabella was perched on a leather sofa, toying with a fountain pen. She glanced up at me. "Sit." I sat awkwardly on the armchair opposite her, my palms sweating. "The marketing department needs a manager," she said, her tone unreadable. "Your performance over the last 6 months has been solid." Interested, I was stunned. A promotion? This wasn't her style. "Isabella, Don't call me Isabella," she snapped, her voice suddenly sharp with rage. "A cheat like you doesn't have a right." I let out a bitter laugh. People only see what they want to see. I decided to say nothing. "There's a business dinner tonight. You're coming with me," she said, finally losing her composure. She stood up and walked over to me. Her signature scent, that cold floral mixed with a faint hint of peach, filled the air. She leaned down, her blouse gaping slightly, and her fingertips brushed against my throat. "Dress well. Don't embarrass me." The touch was cool and dangerously intimate, like the flick of a snake's tongue. My whole body went rigid, memories of our marriage, of things that still made me blush, rushing back. What?" She arched an eyebrow. Her smile was a mask, but her eyes burned with jealousy. "Do you have to get home to your wife and child?" I clenched my jaw. "I'll be there. Beggars can't be choosers." Leo was starting middle school soon, and my savings were next to nothing. Right now, I couldn't afford to say no. At 7 that evening, I stood outside a 5-star hotel, wearing a suit Isabella had sent over, waiting for her. The cool night wind did little to calm the frantic beating of my heart. A black Bentley glided to a stop in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Isabella's perfect profile. She changed into a wine-red slip dress that clung to her curves, a diamond necklace glittering against her skin under the streetlights. "Get in," she said, her voice clipped. The silence in the car was heavy enough to crush me. I stared out the window at the blur of city lights, pretending not to notice the glances she kept stealing in my direction. "Your tie is crooked," she said suddenly. Her hand reached out, her fingertips grazing my neck as she expertly straightened the knot. Her skin was cool, but where it touched mine, it felt like an electric shock. I flinched away. She let out a soft laugh and pulled her hand back. "What's wrong? Afraid I'm going to eat you alive?" "Of course not," I mumbled. "No," she purred, leaning closer, her breath warm against my cheek. "Then how did you find the courage to walk out of my life 3 years ago?" I turned away, a bitter taste filling my mouth. The dinner was in a private room on the top floor. The moment the doors opened, we were hit by a wave of loud laughter. The room was filled with about 8 business tycoons, all of whom stood up when they saw Isabella. "Isabella, we were beginning to think you weren't coming," a man with a prominent beer belly said, handing her a glass of wine. His eyes slid over to me. "And this is my assistant, Sean Murphy," Isabella replied smoothly, taking the glass. "Newly promoted. I'm showing him the ropes." I followed her, forcing a calm smile as I greeted the men. After a few rounds of drinks, the atmosphere loosened up. The man with the beer belly, Mr. Wallace, ambled over to me, drink in hand. "Mr. Murphy, you look new around here. Where'd you work before this?" I started to invent a story, but Isabella cut me off. "He was drifting at some small-time firm," she said with a smile, subtly stepping in front of me. I picked him up. "Mr. Wallace, if you're interested, perhaps we could discuss that land development project on the east side." For the rest of the night, I was her puppet. She had me pouring drinks for one person, making toast to another. When Mr. Wallace tried to pressure me into chugging a glass of whiskey, she just laughed. "Sean's a lightweight. I'll take this one for him." Then she tilted her head back and down the entire glass. The line of her neck was exquisite under the lights. The movement of her throat as she swallowed was almost hypnotic. By the time we left, I was so drunk I could barely stand. Isabella told the driver to take me home, but she slid into the front passenger seat herself. The car filled with the heavy smell of alcohol and her cold, floral perfume. I slumped in the back, my stomach churning. "Feeling sick?" she asked, turning to hand me a bottle of water. I took it without a word. The tension in the car thickened. "Ethan," she said suddenly, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. Her voice held a tremor I'd never heard before. "I can accept Leo, but you owe me an explanation. Why did you have to leave 3 years ago?" The alcohol amplified everything. All the resentment and pain I'd buried for years came rushing to the surface. "An explanation? What do you want me to explain? The late-night calls you took from another man? The cufflink in your car? The strange perfume on your clothes? You act so devoted, but what about when you were in another man's arms? Did you forget then that your marriage only ends in widowhood, not divorce?" "That's bullshit," she snapped, her voice sharp. "Is that really how you see me?" She fell silent for a moment. Then her tone became uncertain. Are you Talking about my cousin. What damn cousin? You think I believe that? And that's not all. I raved, feeling like a madman, waving my fists in the air. I was sick of your control. Sick of the constant surveillance. Sick of your insane jealousy. Isabella, you don't have the first clue what love is. She stared at me, her eyes suddenly red-rimmed. After a few seconds of stunned silence, she started laughing to herself, a broken sound that ended in tears. So that's what it was. She lunged across the console, grabbing my collar, her nails digging into my skin. Ethan, I will give you proof that I was innocent. Her face was inches from mine, her eyelashes wet with tears, her eyes a storm of anger, hurt, and a wildness I couldn't name. But I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ignore everything else you just said. Ethan, you are mine for life. The alcohol had demolished the last of my self-control. She surged forward, her lips crashing against mine. My head hit the window, the impact making my eyes water. But then, slowly, impossibly, I started to kiss her back. The kiss was a tempest of whiskey and 3 years of repressed longing. It started rough and desperate, then softened into something deeper. Her lips were soft, tasting of red wine and something addictive, like a poison I was happy to drink. Her hand slid around my waist. I didn't resist. Instead, my own arms went around her neck, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss. The temperature in the car shot up. Our breaths tangled together, thick with a dangerous intimacy. I don't know how long we stayed like that, but when we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. She rested against my chest, her cheeks flushed, her eyes hazy. I looked at the redness in the corners of her eyes, and a powerful, unfamiliar emotion washed over me. Isabella, I said, my voice low, I'll be waiting for your proof. She didn't answer, just buried her face deeper into my chest. The driver dropped us off at Isabella's penthouse. We walked into the elevator side by side, and I watched the numbers climb, my stomach doing flips. She pushed open the apartment door, and a familiar scent washed over me. The decor was exactly as I'd left it 3 years ago, right down to my favorite oversized beanbag chair still in the corner. Isabella kicked off her heels and sank into the sofa, her bare feet disappearing into the plush rug. Have you been? Okay, these past 3 years, she asked, her eyes scanning me from head to toe as I stood there lost. Getting by, I said vaguely. Got a job. See my brother when I can. You really didn't find another woman? She asked, an eyebrow raised. No, I said without hesitation. She smiled a little, as if she might actually believe me. She didn't press further. We drank in silence, the air thick with an awkward, charged energy. The proof you wanted, she began, her voice soft. It really was my cousin. He was on a business trip in France when he called. My mother had just had a heart attack. I froze. The cufflink in the car, she continued. It must have fallen off the suit I bought for him. I remember looking for it, but never found it. She gave a short, bitter laugh, a flicker of loneliness in her eyes. I can't believe you were the one who took it. And the perfume was his, she cut in, the explanation rushing out. He'd just flown in. I picked him up at the airport, and he gave me a hug. The entire foundation of my escape, the mountain of misunderstandings I had built, crumbled into dust. I stood there, stunned, my throat tight. I couldn't speak. All the reasons I'd used to justify faking my own death were just one big, tragic mistake. Then why didn't you tell me? My voice trembled. Did you ever give me a chance? She looked at me, her eyes filled with an exhaustion that went bone deep. You just disappeared. No note, no call. I searched the entire city for you. Then the police called, said you were lost at sea, and I... Her voice broke. She couldn't finish, the tears falling like broken pearls. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I stepped forward and clumsily wrapped my arms around her. Her body was soft, trembling in my embrace. Only in moments like this did she ever let her guard down. I'm sorry, I repeated over and over. Bella, I'm so sorry. She didn't fight it. She just let me hold her, crying to my shoulder for a long, long time. That night, we talked for hours. We talked about the misunderstanding about our lives over the past 3 years. She told me how after my death, she'd locked herself away for 3 months and lost 20 pounds. She hated me for leaving without a word, but she couldn't stop thinking about me every single night. She even confessed she'd been ready to fight my non-existent new wife to get me back. Guilt and alcohol were a potent mix. One thing led to another. We ended up in the bedroom, just like we had on countless nights before. Moonlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the curve of her collarbone. She rose on her toes to kiss me, a deep, searching kiss that held 3 years of unspoken longing. Her fingers undid the buttons of my shirt, her touch leaving a trail of fire on my skin. I held her, feeling the softness of her body, the frantic beat of her heart, and all my reason dissolved. Ethan, she breathed against my ear, her voice husky. Don't ever leave me again. I nodded, lowering my head to capture her lips. That night, we tried to make up for all the time we'd lost. In my arms, she was sometimes a gentle kitten, sometimes a fierce tigress, demanding my love and giving hers in return. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd run a marathon. Isabella was still asleep, her breathing even. I watched her peaceful face, my heart swelling with a mix of tenderness and regret. I slipped out of bed, got dressed, and pressed a light kiss to her forehead before tiptoeing out of the apartment. Back at my place, Leo was still sleeping. I was just making him a bowl of mac and cheese when my phone rang. It was Isabella. Why'd you sneak out? Her voice was husky with sleep. Couldn't let my little brother go to school hungry. Oh, well, when are you coming to the office? I'm waiting for you, she said, her tone softening. And with a suit I got for you. I paused, remembering the new suit she'd tucked into my bag last night. After hanging up, I caught my reflection in the mirror and couldn't stop the corner of my mouth from turning up. Maybe, just maybe, we could actually start over. When I got to the office, my colleagues' stares were a mix of curiosity and knowing smirks. I ignored them and headed straight for Isabella's office. Just as I reached the door, a young woman in a pink dress was coming out. She looked to be in her early 20s, pretty and vivacious. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. You must be Sean Murphy, she chirped, her voice sweet as candy. I'm Chloe Vance from Vance Capital. I'll be interning here for a while. It's a pleasure to meet you. I nodded, not thinking much of it. Pushing the door open, I found Isabella at her desk, engrossed in a file. She looked up when I entered and smiled. You're here. Yeah, I said, walking over. Who was that just now? The daughter of the CEO of Vance Capital, she said dismissively. She's here to experience life. Her father and mine go way back. It was hard to say no. I didn't give it another thought and started my work report. Just as I was about to leave, she stopped me. Dinner tonight? She asked. Okay, I agreed with a smile. At 6 o'clock, I was at the restaurant we'd agreed on. I just sat down when I saw Chloe Vance walk in on the arm of a middle-aged man. The man saw me and grinned. Mr. Murphy, fancy seeing you here. It was Mr. Wallace from the other night. I managed an awkward smile. Chloe sat down across from me, beaming. What a coincidence, Sean. Are you having dinner here too? Meeting a friend, I said. Male or female? She asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Female. Ooh, she cooed, wiggling her eyebrows. Is it your girlfriend? Before I could explain, I saw Isabella standing a few feet away, her face a thundercloud. The sharp clicks of her heels on the floor sounded like gunshots as she marched toward our table. I knew that look. Her old demons were back. Isabella. I grabbed her wrist, lowering my voice. Listen to me, it's not what you think. Not what I think, she hissed, wrenching her arm free, her eyes like chips of ice. You're already moving on to her? Sweat beaded on my forehead. She came in with Mr. Wallace. I just ran into them. A colleague, she sneered, grabbing my earlobe. Your last colleague is probably still tanning in Africa. She didn't smile once through dinner. Afterwards, she turned and left without a word. I watched her storm away, a familiar sense of helplessness washing over me. Chloe looked like the kind of rich kid you couldn't just ship off to another continent. This was going to be complicated. In the days that followed, Isabella was a glacier. She stopped calling me to her office, stopped seeking me out. When we passed in the halls, she offered nothing more than a curt nod. But I could feel her watching me. Every time I had a conversation with Chloe, I could feel the chill of her gaze on my back. I tried to break the ice, to corner her, and talk things out. My efforts usually earned me nothing but a sore back the next morning and no change in her attitude. To make matters worse, Chloe seemed completely oblivious to the tension, practically attaching herself to me. She'd bring me coffee, ask for help with trivial tasks, always with a perfectly valid excuse. And as if cursed, every single one of our chance encounters was witnessed by Isabella. On Friday night, I was working late. As I stepped out of the building, I saw Chloe waiting under a streetlight. She was wearing a white dress, looking fragile and innocent. Sean, she ran over, a bright smile on her face. My car broke down. Could you possibly give me a ride home? I was about to refuse when I saw Isabella's Bentley parked down the street. She was sitting inside, watching us, her face a blank mask. Sorry, I've got plans, I said, my voice tight. Please. Chloe grabbed my arm, her voice pleading. It's so late. I don't feel safe by myself. Her voice was just loud enough for Isabella to hear. I saw Isabella's knuckles turn white as she gripped the steering wheel. All right, I ground out, mentally cursing Chloe 1,000 times. The second I got Chloe into a taxi, Isabella's car screeched to a halt in front of me. She rolled down the window. "Get in," she said, her voice dangerously calm. I hesitated for a second, then opened the door and climbed in. The silence was suffocating. She drove aimlessly through the city, not saying a word. "Let me explain." "Shut up," she said. I shut up. My stomach was in knots. The car finally stopped in front of a secluded villa in a dark, unfamiliar suburb. The place looked ominous. "Get out," she commanded. I got out of the car, my heart pounding, and watched as she unlocked the heavy front door. It was pitch black inside. "In," she ordered, pointing. "Isabella, what is this?" I said, "Get in," she snapped, her eyes wild. I didn't dare disobey. I stepped over the threshold. The moment I was inside, my wrist was seized and bound with a rope. "Isabella, what are you doing?" I panicked. She turned on her phone's flashlight, the beam cutting across her face, leaving one side in shadow, the other starkly illuminated. She looked terrifying. "I didn't cheat on you. It was all a misunderstanding." "I believe you," she said with a chilling smile. "But I don't believe them." She raised a hand, her sharp, scarlet nails tracing the line of my carotid artery. Her eyes were glazed over, her other hand slowly closing around my throat. "Ethan, you're mine. You can only be mine. No one is allowed to take you from me." Her grip tightened. I choked, my face turning red. Just as my vision started to spot, she suddenly let go. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, a flicker of panic in her eyes, but it was instantly swallowed by mania. "But I can't lose you, Ethan. I really can't." She leaned down and kissed me, a desperate, frenzied kiss that felt like it was trying to devour me whole. I struggled, tried to push her away, but the ropes held me fast. "Don't touch me," I roared. She ignored me, her lips moving, her hands unbuttoning my shirt. Her fingertips were ice cold against my skin, making me shudder. "Isabella, you're insane." "I am insane," she cried, looking up, her eyes blazing. "I've been insane since the moment you disappeared. Ethan, if you dared to come back and tempt me, you have to face the consequences." Her kisses trailed down my neck, leaving a trail of angry red marks on my collarbone. I struggled. I cursed, but it was like she couldn't hear me. She was lost in her own madness. That night, I was a marionette, and she was the puppeteer. She vented all her rage and fear onto my body, her actions swinging between tender and violent. I closed my eyes, trying to dissociate, but my body's betrayal was undeniable. I woke up in a windowless room. The walls were cold, bare concrete. There was only a bed and a toilet. Isabella came in with a breakfast tray. Seeing me awake, she smiled. A soft, loving smile that was a terrifying contrast to the monster from the night before. "You're awake. Are you hungry?" I turned my head away, ignoring her. "Don't be angry," she said, coming closer. She reached out to touch my face, but I flinched away. Her expression darkened for a second, but she didn't get angry. "I know you hate me, but I didn't have a choice. I was afraid you'd run away again, find another woman." "This is kidnapping," I said coldly. "I know," she replied, completely unfazed. "I'll do anything to keep you by my side." I looked at the madness in her eyes and felt a deep chill. The woman I loved had been broken by my absence. For the next few days, I was her prisoner in that dark little room, cut off from the world. She came every day with food and drink, then proceeded to torture me, mind and body. Sometimes she would hold me gently and talk about her past. Other times she would explode, demanding to know if I was still thinking about Chloe. I tried to reason with her, to explain that Chloe and I were just colleagues, that I loved her, but not like this. It was like talking to a brick wall. "You think I believe you?" she sneered. "The way that woman looks at you? She wants to eat you alive. Don't even try to lie to me, Ethan." I grew desperate and started a hunger strike. She saw me refusing food and water and started crying, but she still wouldn't let me go. "Are you trying to kill yourself?" I whispered, my voice weak. "No," she cried. "I just want you to stay with me. Ethan, just be good, and I'll be good to you, just like before." "I don't want you good," I yelled. "I want to be free. Isabella, let me go. I don't want to spend my life with a lunatic." She froze. Then, like a switch had been flipped, she threw herself on me, clinging to me with all her strength. "I won't. I'll never let you go. You're mine, for this life and the next." Just as I felt the last of my sanity slipping away, the door burst open. Chloe stood there with a team of security guards. She saw the scene and gasped. "Isabella, you've gone too far." Isabella's face went pale. Chloe's guards rushed forward and cut the ropes binding me. "Are you okay?" Chloe asked, helping me up, her face etched with concern. "I'm fine," I said weakly. "Isabella, this is false imprisonment." "I've already called the police," Chloe said, her voice like steel. Isabella stared at me, her eyes a swirling vortex of despair and fury. Just then, her phone rang. She answered it. I couldn't hear what was being said, but her face grew paler and paler. Finally, she shot me one last venomous look and stormed out. How did you? I asked, confused. My father called her father, Chloe explained. The Rossis are powerful, but Vance Capital is no pushover. A wave of relief and terror washed over me. I couldn't believe my savior had been her, of all people. After the rescue, I ended up in the hospital, sick from the stress and malnutrition. I spent days just lying there, staring at the ceiling, my mind a chaotic mess. I was terrified of Isabella, disgusted by what she'd done, but when I remembered the desperation in her eyes, my heart ached. Chloe visited me often, bringing food and offering a comforting presence. I knew she was interested in me, but my heart was still a captive of Isabella's, even if that love was tangled up with pain and torment. Ethan, you have to forget about her, Chloe said softly one afternoon, sitting by my bed. She doesn't love you. She just wants to own you. I didn't answer. Be with me, she said suddenly. I'll be good to you. I'll never hurt you the way she did. I was stunned, then slowly shook my head. I'm sorry, Chloe. There's already someone in my heart. The light in her eyes dimmed. She didn't bring it up again. After I was discharged, I quit my job, changed my number, and moved to a place I was sure Isabella could never find. I wanted a clean break, a new life. But I had underestimated her. It wasn't long before I realized I was being followed. Whether I was at the grocery store or the park, I could feel that familiar, unnerving gaze. It was Isabella. She was like a ghost, always there in the periphery, never approaching, but never leaving. My feelings were a battlefield. Part of me was terrified of her, but another part couldn't forget the passion of our nights together or the raw emotion in her eyes. Chloe, meanwhile, was persistent, constantly finding reasons to ask me out. I refused every time, but she never seemed to get the message. To make things worse, her other admirer started causing trouble for me. A rich kid named Chad Peterson, who, fueled by ego and entitlement, cornered me several times after work, warning me to stay away from Chloe. Listen, buddy, back off while you still can, Chad sneered, a cigarette dangling from his lips. Chloe is way out of your league. I ignored him and walked away, which, of course, only made him angrier. The following weekend, I took Leo to Lincoln Park. He'd recently become obsessed with skateboarding, and I was teaching him the basics. The sun was out, the park was full of people, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Leo had just managed to glide a few feet on his own and was turning to skate excitedly back toward me when it happened. Chad burst out from behind a row of bushes, a knife in his hand, and charged straight at me. His eyes were crazed. It's all your fault, he screamed. Chloe doesn't want me because of you, because of a loser like you. She told me to get lost and that her father would ruin my family. My blood ran cold. My first instinct was to push Leo behind me, but there was no time. The blade was coming. I shut my eyes, bracing for the impact, but the pain never came. I opened my eyes to see Isabella standing in front of me. The knife was buried in her back. Blood bloomed across her white shirt like a grotesque, beautiful flower. Bella, I screamed, lunging forward. Chad froze, stunned that someone had jumped in the way. People in the park rushed over, tackling him to the ground. Are you okay? I caught Isabella as her body went limp, her face pale, her lips turning blue. Ethan, she gasped, a faint smile on her lips. I'm fine. Don't talk. Tears streamed down my face as I held her. I yelled to the crowd, somebody call 911, now. The ambulance arrived quickly. They loaded Isabella onto a stretcher. I clutched a terrified Leo and climbed in after them. My little brother clung to my neck, sobbing quietly. I patted his back, trying to soothe him, but my eyes never left Isabella. Watching her brow furrow in pain, seeing the life drain from her face, my heart felt like it was being shredded. This woman, she always expressed her love in the most extreme, terrifying ways.